Keep going while I fix it.
Is it filming?
Yes.
Oh, right. So, hi, I'm Ida, and Karina. I'm with Karina. I'm herding cats on social media. We are managing social media for Movement for a People's Party, and it's. Where do I start? I got involved. I got involved in this thanks to Bernie. I even got my citizenship finally after many years. Thanks to Bernie, it seemed like, oh, I guess I should get involved, and in order to get involved, I have to be a citizen. So, I'm the European, the never-ending European. But anyway, we've heard all right here what happened with the primary, and we all lived through the ups and downs of the whole election, and it's been a tremendous journey, and it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. I have to keep reminding myself of that, especially these days. Often I lose hope in humanity, but seeing all my wonderful sisters and brothers in the fight for a better future, it really gives me hope, and it keeps me going. And in turn, I give other people hope, and that's how we'll get through this. And particularly after the general election, emotions were pretty dark. And then I read Nick Brana's article, and I was just, that's it. That's what needs to happen. And I got involved. And here I am, helping manage social media. And the main hope I have is, reasoning is, we have this vacuum. Almost half of the registered voters didn't come out to vote in the general election because they were utterly disgusted. And there was just not only disgust, but it's pointless. Yeah, you're going to, like Assange really put it very well, voting between gonorrhea and some other horrible illness, syphilis and gonorrhea. As many political scientists are pointing out, in this vacuum, if the real populist left doesn't fill it, it's going to be filled by the right, by the crazy right-wingers, and this is what we saw in the general election. So really our only hope is to form this huge coalition of the working people. Doesn't matter progressive, ideally progressive, but all the working people have what's considered progressive economic ideas, and this is where we need to unite around. We need to bring all the people to the table who are feeling the pain, who are, I spoke with some workers on strike in Oakland the other day, and one of them told me she has to work 3 jobs just to make it, just to survive. They haven't had a raise in 8 years, cost of living raise. Meanwhile, the rents are going through the roof. So we really, really need this, and we need to get the Democrats out of the way because they're in the way of actual, real resistance. If you really want to resist, they co-opted that word, and they co-opted the word progressive, and they co-opted feminism, they co-opted everything. Yeah. So we'll take back the word resistance. Vive la résistance! And we'll get them out of the way and ensure a livable planet for our children.
Thanks, everyone. It's so great to hear from all of you. There's so much experience, dedication, and passion in this room. I've had the pleasure to get to know a lot of you personally, and I'm honored that all of you are here to be a part of this. So thank you all for being here. And I want to echo that point that Ida made and that some others have made, and that's that if we don't do it, the right will be the only alternative. And we saw how that played out in 2016 when the right wing was the only alternative. People are so desperate that think of how desperate people had to be to vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You know? And orange reality TV show billionaire, authoritarian, racist, sexist, who is the epitome of capitalism in a lot of ways, and how hideous and artificial it is. And so you gotta think of how distasteful the Democrats had to be, and Hillary Clinton had to be to vote for that.
Yeah.
So, but the stakes in what's coming up, I believe I have seen enough in terms of the numbers, in terms of what I've been doing for the past year, ever since I wrote the original article. I've seen enough that I believe that a new party is inevitable in the United States. It's inevitable. It's not a question of whether it's going to happen. It's a question of when, and it's a question of what will be behind it, who will be behind it, and what will it represent. And because the vacuum is just is too large. It's too large, that vacuum of non-representation that exists right now. And so as you think about that, I also want to say that there are very rich and powerful people that are now taking notice of this. They're realizing, wow, there's a big opening here, And so if you want to look to what the establishment does, when a situation like that arises, you can look to France. So in France, neither of the two parties that have dominated French politics for the past several decades made it into the runoff election. And neither of them were obviously elected prime minister. And what you saw in France was that originally elites buttressed the major parties. But when it became clear that the major parties were going to fall and that they were not going to be sufficient, they switched strategies and they created a third party of their own. They created a new neoliberal party under Emmanuel Macron, and it worked long enough to actually get people to vote for him and to put him for him to win and for him to take over French Parliament. And so that's the kind of thing that we face. If we don't act, and if we're not the ones to actually give people the representation that they're looking for, is that a billionaire will come along and they will start a party. Or we'll have the far right, Bannon, when his candidates get shot down in 2018, will start a party as well, with Mercer's money. So that's really the imperative that I think that we have. And there is good news, though, because also, like some people pointed out, this revolution is global, and in a lot of countries, we're winning.
Yes.
We are winning. So, yeah, that's right. Spain with Podemos, just in the past 3 years, Spain with Podemos, in Iceland, you have the same thing in Greece, actually overthrew their version of the Democrats. Same story. I was so proud of this because my ancestry is Chilean, and so Frente Amplio in Chile just broke up a two-party system in Chile that has existed ever since the end of the U.S. imposed dictatorship. So Frente Amplio, a radical, democratic, socialist, progressive party. Amazing, absolutely, amazing. And as an aside, part of what I'm very interested in doing is convening a number of these individuals who participated in the strategy of all of these parties, these radical left parties that overthrew their versions of the Democrats and entrenched two-party systems, bringing them over to the United States and having conference, having a discussion, and really drawing from their wisdom. I think that would be a great thing for us to do. Yeah. What do people think about that? That's right. That solidarity, feeling the power of people who've done it already. That feels great. And so I want to talk a little bit too about how, how everyone here can help us do that. I can't do it alone. None of us can do it individually, but together we really can. We really can do it. And so, when we came after the Convergence Conference, just thinking about what needed to be done, it was coalition building. It was bringing groups together. And that's kind of a non-traditional role for volunteers and people who are helping out in a movement. It's much more. It's seen in politics and in campaigns. It's like a political role, that's reserved for just kind of a few people, who have that expertise. And we thought, no, that's not what we need. What this moment calls for, rather, is for all of us to fill that role, for all of us to take on that responsibility. Because all of us here, as we've heard, many of us have been doing this for many years. I'm a newcomer compared to a lot of you guys. So with everything that everyone brings to the table, just in this room, and there are rooms like this, and meetings like this, and gatherings like this, and people just like us across the country who are with us and who are doing it right now. And so just with what we have here, we can bring a lot of resources to bear, and we have to do it, and we have to be committed. And so I want to ask, as I do on the calls, for everyone's help in doing that. For approaching organizations, approaching other activists, approaching other parties, approaching labor. We've had a number of local unions reach out to us and say, "This sounds great. We're interested. I'm interested. That's fabulous. That's just what it takes." And so a lot of us are members of unions, speaking to that union. A lot of us are members of our revolution groups, DSA groups, speaking to those organizations, talking to them about what it is that we're doing. Thank you so much, Addie. And really, and sharing this message, and sparking this conversation, and offering to them, let's have a dialogue about this, with those memberships of those chapters. Let's see if we can get to a point where your chapter is willing to support us, is willing to endorse this strategy and say, yes, we will bring resources to the table. We'll be a part of this. We'll be a part of founding this. Everyone, of course, is connected to academics, or can reach out in their community to academics, to student groups, and talk to them about joining this coalition as well. In the United Kingdom, a lot of what led to Jeremy Corbyn's success was he reawoke a student movement in the UK. And that has yet to be done in the United States. I feel like it may be just beginning to happen, but there is such great potential for us to do that as well. Because we talked about the numbers of millennials. 71% now, 91% in 2016. So that's almost unanimous. And so that is just an organizing question. That is an organizing really bonanza there, just waiting to happen, is to revive those radicalized student groups and bring back radical politics to campuses. And so I would like to ask that each of you, and many of you already are, but that each of you help us in doing that, because it will only happen if we crowdsource it, if enough of us are actually doing that, bringing organizations. I know some of you came a long way. Yezdair came 3 hours to be here.
Wow, right on. Thank you.
And Yezdair is starting a Fresno chapter.
All right.
Great. And that's exactly what we need to be doing. At the same time that we're meeting with other groups, we need to be continuing to meet and to strategize and to talk ourselves. So continuing to meet here in the Bay Area. Carol was collecting phones and emails. You know, that is absolutely something that we'll want to continue to do. Here in San Francisco in the Bay Area, there are so many people who are so ready for what it is that we're talking about. So many organizations that have been working on it too. I've had the privilege of speaking to a lot of them while I've been here for the past week. Speaking at Human Agenda last night, being a panel with Eric and with Gail on Tuesday. So that's what it'll take now. If we want it to happen, it will happen. And if we work towards it, it will happen. And we have to do it because we all know what will happen if we don't. So, with that, I'm so excited to have all of you here. I hope everyone's managed to get a drink. If not, I hope you will right after this.
And if you didn't sign your name, come over and sign.
Yeah.
Our website.
Oh, of course. For anyone who doesn't know, our website is forapeoplesparty.org. And we have coalition building resources there. We have a referral form there for coalition building as well. We have our Thursday calls, of course, where we talk about our priorities. We recently made a call for academics who support us. We have more than 20 academics signed on and more signing on. And so that's the kind of thing, you know, that we'll want to put together across each of these different areas. You know, because Carol knows the media. She knows the media really well. And Carol, what kind of reaction would we have from the media if we announced a party with unions and Bernie volunteers and supporters and delegates and communities of color and organizations of color, movements of color, student groups, academics,
They couldn't ignore us
Sanders,
anymore.
Sanders, surrogates, and Sanders staffers. A lot of staffers contacting me and telling me how can I be a part of it. What would happen, Carol? What would happen if we all say we're launching a new party?
We would get so much coverage. It would be awesome.
It would blow up.
It would, yeah, we would blow up the internet. We would blow up the world.
Yeah. It would be an explosion, and it would be the biggest third-party happening since in decades, I think. Really, and it would send shockwaves across the country, across
They count
the
on
world.
us being fragmented, and
That's right.
we can't do that anymore.
Right. That's why they tolerate our siloed existence, because we're ineffective, and so that's what we need to break through. So thank you all so much for being here and for participating in building that. Really, give yourselves a round of applause. Carol, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Just thank you for being here, and let's mingle and
Yeah.
that's what make connections.
Yeah. Everything else.